Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into something that literally drives every single thing we do. Where do we actually find true joy? Today, we're exploring the teachings and writings originating from the guy Feng, founder of Life Chanyuan. We're going to unpack his insights on where to find happiness and bliss, and honestly, it's a completely eye-opening look at what actually fulfills us.
So here's a fundamental, maybe even a kind of uncomfortable question to kick things off. Why do people spend their entire lives toiling away, just racking their brains? Seriously, think about it for a second. Whether you're up late studying, grinding at a super demanding job, trying to provide for a family, or hustling to build a business, what is the actual underlying motivation for all that exhausting effort?
Well, Feng points out a pretty crucial premise. The ultimate goal of all that human struggle is simply to live happily. Joyfully, freely, and blissfully. I mean, it sounds obvious, right? But we kind of forget it all the time. Nobody sets out to become rich or famous or an academic superstar just to live in constant fear or annoyance. Even if someone says they're sacrificing themselves for the glory of their nation or their family, Feng argues that if the end result is just a life of absolute misery, then all that heroic effort isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a complete disaster. The goal is always joy.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, we need to deconstruct some terms. Let's look at how Feng defines happiness. Notice that he categorizes it as an outward, dynamic manifestation. It's the totally visible expression of your inner satisfaction and comfort. You express it through your emotions, your words, your posture, your behavior. It's this active, dynamic state that the people around you can actually see and feel in real time.
But then we have this second concept. Contrast happiness with bliss. Bliss, on the other hand, is strictly inward. It's static. It's this profound sense of spiritual and mental fulfillment that you achieve specifically by being completely free from annoyance, pain, sorrow, and fear. So while happiness is this dynamic performance everyone can witness, bliss is entirely internal. It's a quiet, peaceful state known only to you.
Section 1. The Material Wealth Illusion. Historical Comparisons. Because if we're all seeking happiness and bliss, we really have to ask ourselves, does our modern, high-tech society actually make us happier than folks who lived 1,000 years ago? Picture this comparison. On one hand, you have a highly educated, modern city engineer. On the other, a grassland shepherd boy from hundreds of years ago. Obviously, the shepherd boy didn't have a smartphone, a car, electricity, or even glass in his windows. But Feng asserts that the happiness and bliss of people back then were absolutely no less than ours today. In fact, that shepherd boy might actually carry way fewer worries than the totally stressed-out modern city engineer.
Or think about the absolute peak of physical pleasure. Is a climax experienced today on a super luxurious, high-end Simmons bed fundamentally richer or more stimulating than the exact same biological experience had by someone in a rustic cornfield 2,000 years ago? The external environment has definitely upgraded, for sure, but that internal peak experience, it remains exactly the same.
Here's another one. Think about gift giving. Gifting a brand new Mercedes-Benz today versus, say, gifting a cow hundreds of years ago. Feng argues that the joy of receiving modern luxury items doesn't somehow magically surpass the joy of the past. Actually, the happiness brought by that Mercedes today might be less lasting than the immense, life-sustaining joy someone felt receiving a cow centuries ago. Giving someone a peach back then or a high-end laptop today brings the exact same essential feeling of happiness.
The crucial point is perfectly captured right here. Who is definitively more blissful? A woman adorned from head to toe in diamonds, or a barefoot woman successfully raising a flock of thousands of ducks? Like, who can genuinely say that a woman who just picks a wildflower to wear in her hair experiences any less joy than a woman weighed down by heavy gold necklaces? The material richness simply does not dictate the depth of the joy.
Which brings us to this huge revelation. I really want this to sink in. Feng concludes that happiness and bliss have absolutely nothing to do with the richness of materials. Literally nothing. Money, high status, political power, fame, advanced technology, they are entirely disconnected from true joy. If you don't understand the actual path to happiness, you could literally live in a paradise and still be completely miserable.
Section 2. The True Formula. Creation and Dedication. Because if material wealth is just a grand illusion, what's the actual reality? Let's reveal Feng's core philosophical framework for what actually drives human fulfillment. This right here is the engine of the entire philosophy. Quote, happiness is related to creation and bliss is related to giving and dedication. End quote. It's an active formula. Without creation, you get no happiness.
And without selfless dedication to others, there's absolutely no bliss. You literally cannot buy it. You have to generate it through those two active choices.
So, what are the traits of someone who actually applies this formula? Well, a blissful person is grateful, selfless, creative, giving, and reasonable. Xu Feng explains that if you cultivate these internal traits, you could live in a simple thatched cottage, eating the most basic meals, and you will always live happily and blissfully. Your internal state literally creates your joy.
But let's flip that around. What traits actively block bliss? Being selfish, having a massive ego, being ungrateful, heavy with envy, and always thinking you're right while everyone else is wrong. If you carry that kind of toxic internal state, Xu Feng says you'll be entirely miserable, even if you live in a magnificent palace and are waited on hand and foot. The internal toxicity just ruins any external luxury.
Section 3. The Life Shinyuan Perspective. Testing the philosophy. Let's see how this framework actually holds up in the real world with Xu Feng's ultimate comparison.
I want to pose a totally counterintuitive question to you right now just to challenge any materialistic assumptions we might still be holding on to. Who is happier? A worker earning a solid 10,000 yuan a month who also gets a nice year-end bonus? Or someone who works diligently for an entire year without earning a single penny in salary? Your modern instinct is probably screaming that the salaried worker has to be happier, right?
Well, let's look at the comparison Xu Feng presents. On one side, you have the City 996 white-collar worker. You know the drill, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. They have the high salary and the bonus, but they are completely exhausted. Contrast that with the Chanyuan Celestials living in the second home of life, Chanyuan. They have absolutely no salary and no bonus all year round. Yet, operating purely on dedication and creation, Xu Feng reports that these Celestials are decidedly happier and way more blissful than those stressed-out, highly paid city office workers.
So, the ultimate takeaway of this entire explainer boils down to this. True joy relies solely on your soul, your spirit, your realm, your pattern of living, and your internal quality. External status is just a mirage. That internal space is where the real work needs to happen.
Which brings us to the end. I want to leave you with Xu Feng's provocative closing question. Humanity has struggled for thousands of years. We established the UN, invented crazy high-tech, created complex political systems, and totally exhausted ourselves chasing money and status. But despite all of that, have you found the key to happiness, joy, freedom, and bliss? If not, maybe it's time to look beyond the material rat race and rethink the power of creation and dedication. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.